This video is going up a little late, and I'll start off by apologising for that. I hope to be able to have my TBRs up a day or two before the month in question, but September has been a difficult month to say the least. As wrap-ups go, this is going to be an extremely small one, as in September I was able to read only one book, that being Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, which I read partially in text form and partially by listening to the audiobook. September was an extreme month for me, as I had no less than 7 migraines, some lasting multiple consecutive days, putting me in a position where I was unable to read or really do much of anything for most of the month. I was only really able to read on 11 days in the entirety of September, and my health was so impacted that I'd been unable to go to the gym at all, or even maintain a proper sleep pattern. This problem has continued into October already, which is why this video is going up on the 5th, because for the first weekend of October I had yet another migraine that lasted 2 days. Whilst otherwise unable to finish other books, I did at least attempt to read them. I started both Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky and Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, but only got about 50 pages into each of them. The last 2 books on my TBR I didn't even open, but that's to be expected given how bad I've been feeling. Additionally, as you can probably tell, I'm starting to get quite a sore throat, which means that I'm probably losing my voice. This is going to make recording YouTube videos a little harder. Still, the world keeps turning, and there are new books always on the horizon. Rather than looking back on that TBR as a failure, I'm instead going to look at it as an unfortunate issue given my general health, and choose to move on rather than dwell on it. As I've said before, I have a Discord chat where we discuss books, video games and general topics of the day, and on that chat we also have a buddy read, which at the time of recording now has over 30 members. This being October, a lot of people were quite excited to suggest some horror books, and the voting was quite close. Because the books chosen were relatively short, we actually went with 3 books for the October buddy read rather than the usual 2. Those 3 being The Shadow over Innsmouth by H.P. Lovecraft, an interesting choice, a short story easily available for free in ebook form and in most Lovecraftian collections. It'll be fun to go back and look at one of the most influential writers in horror and see what one of their most famous stories has to offer. I find it interesting that Lovecraft wrote almost exclusively short stories, as the short story format is not one that tends to get much attention in the modern day, especially here on YouTube. The second book chosen was Shadow of the Scorpion by Neil Asher, a direct sequel to our August buddy read pick of Praedor Moon and a continuation of the pulp sci-fi world of the Polity series. I know a few people are excited to continue with that series, and I'm glad there's some fun space-based action on the list, as it'll bring a little levity whilst everyone's watching their horror films and reading their spooky books. The final book on the buddy read is one I likely won't be reading because I've actually already read it back in August, that being The Devil You Know by Mike Carey. I may reread it if I have the time. A fun and atmospheric gothic horror urban fantasy that I think will put people very much in the Halloween mood. It's one I'm looking forward to talking about on the Discord at the very least, and it leaves me with a really rather light TBR for the month if I'm not reading it. So given that, I'm going to add a couple more books that I would like ideally to read if I have the time and the ability. In place of the third buddy read for myself, I'm going to try and squeeze in Full Moon by Jim Butcher. Whilst not exactly horror based, I'm looking forward to getting back to the Dresden Files, as it was one I was intending to read last month but never got around to. Given Halloween is closely approaching, I'm also going to take a crack at the selected works of Edgar Allan Poe, and read a few of his short stories, as other than The Raven, I'm not especially familiar with his work, and I believe I will enjoy it quite a lot. And finally, I wanted to add a children's book, not just for a little much-needed levity, to go along with The Shadow of the Scorpion. After all, the constant horror films, horror books and horror games can get a little tedious in October, but I also wanted an excuse to read my specific copy. I'll be trying to find the time to read The Twits by Roald Dahl, but specifically I'll be reading my copy in Japanese. Over the last year or so, I've completely neglected one of my newer hobbies, that being that of linguistics, and have begun to forget much of the Japanese that I'd learned through the evening classes and private study I'd been doing a few years previous. Reading this book in Japanese should help bring that skill back out and push me to continue to learn the language so that I'm more than barely conversational, which is where I currently stand. So, that's my TBR. Not so adventurous this time. I'm keeping this to relatively short books, given the way my health has been as of late, and I think this should make for a more manageable reading schedule. It should drag me out of the medically induced reading slump I found myself in. I hope to be able to post some reviews up soon, and I look forward to discussing books with people in the Discord, so do come and join us there. Until next time, thanks for watching.